So after London, I think because I didn't get the time that I wanted, I was eager to get back training really early. But I took a week off after the marathon, did a little bit of cross training, a bit of weights, and very, very little running the week after. It was really mentally refreshing, and I actually didn't miss running, which was quite strange. I knew that I had this 1 week where for basically the rest of the year I'd be training really hard, so I thought to myself, you know what, just enjoy yourself, relax and try and switch off physically and mentally. We got back off holiday and I was absolutely raring to go. So the first session back, there was no expectations, but we headed straight to the track, and I kind of didn't really think anything of it because we'd been doing bits of track work in the build up to the marathon. And I say I enjoyed the first session back. I thought it was fantastic. My legs felt great. It was nice to be back running fast-ish at that point because everything was just kind of moving, felt quick.
Not done yet. It's hard being a girl.
The thing with Hayley is that she's got a very non-traditional route into the sport, so most of the people that she races against, even at the marathon, have got a background of moving through the distances, having maybe been racing as a junior or whatever. They've spent a lot of time on the track and being in touch with that work all the way through, really. Slightly different with Hayley because she'd never really been on the track, never really done anything that was anything other than marathon specific, so there were two bits to it. We had to change the training stimulus in terms of doing that shorter speed work, but the sort of second aspect of that was going to be that she had to learn a lot of the sort of skills around pacing sessions, around understanding that increased intensity and stuff. So she wasn't going back to something that she'd been away from but was familiar with. She was starting something that's pretty much brand new.
So we went to Tipton to do a 3,000 metres, but there was just something that didn't feel right. I got there and I said to Dan, I just don't feel right. I don't want to do it. He said, "You always say this." I said, "No, I know. I always say this." And I said, "But it feels different this time." I said, "Something's just not right. My head's not in it." And I did a couple of strides and I just felt flat. I just didn't. There was no oomph there. There was no, "Oh yeah, raring to go, can't wait to go." And we just kept saying, as soon as the gun goes, you'll be fine. The gun went, I wasn't fine. It was a matter of just get me to the end, even just being 3k, not even 2 miles. And if I could have cried during the 3k race, I would have. It was just awful, and I felt everyone was staring at me. I felt paranoid, I felt self-conscious. I felt, what are you doing here? What's the point? I just wanted to give up. I thought, there's just no benefit to this at all. I crossed the finish line slower than I ever have before in a 3k. I do 3k reps on the track faster than that. It was just, the anxiety was debilitating, and I've never felt that the anxiety got that bad, that it actually affected my performance. I've always had anxiety before a race, as we all do, but it was debilitating. And even Dan said, I'd never seen anything that bad before. I cried roughly for 2 hours, didn't sleep a wink for 2 days. And so, yeah, don't get me wrong, like looking back now it seems really, really over the top, but I just thought, I can't do this, I can't do track. I just can't get there. I'm not going to be able to get my head around it.
I knew that was really pivotal, and it sounds very melodramatic. I know that, and it kind of was very melodramatic. Someone was sitting down on the ground and refusing to move, and that was the emotional state she was in. And at the same time, I knew that getting to the track and starting the first rep of that session was very important to her kind of view of running, her future development. It felt really pivotal. So I felt like, I suppose my first reaction was like, this is a huge moment. You need to get this right. And it's sudden, it'd been building up, but at the same time I was quite shocked. So suddenly I felt like, oh wow, I've got to get this right now, otherwise this is going to have some long-term consequences. It might mean that she doesn't run, and I, again, I'm feeling emotions myself in that situation, so I was catastrophizing, thinking, you're going to wreck this career by not being a good enough coach in this moment, and you could sort of destroy all this potential and all that sort of stuff, which is actually, looking back, like quite self-aggrandizing, because it's not really about me at all. But I suppose what you want to feel in that moment is some agency over it, so that you can actually affect things. So maybe that's why you think of it in those terms. It's not like I think I'm the be-all and end-all and can influence things that much. It's ultimately everything's got to come from her. But I suppose I just wanted to think, right, have I done everything I possibly can to make sure that if she is going to walk away from it, she's doing it for the right reasons. And I think fairly clearly that wouldn't have been the right way to make that sort of decision. You don't make good decisions when she was in the sort of mindset she was in, or certainly the chances of good decisions are reduced. So.
But normally I think you get about 90.
You're a hero. So proud of you. So proud of you. Well done. That's fucking nice. But let's be honest, what's going to happen now is you're generally back to yourself, which means that at some point tonight I'll get a message saying, yeah, but it was really slow, I'm just getting slower. What's the point?
Yeah, I've already said it twice.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting slower.
I'm just like, you're not getting slower though, are you?
I might be.
You're not.
I've peaked.
You've peaked. That's not true, is it? That's probably our biggest challenge, isn't it? Is that you've got,
I'm peaking.
Your frame of reference is very short. You haven't had years and years at this, and you've not had a period where you've been injured or you've plateaued for a significant amount of time.
Touch wood.
Yeah. But given that, do you think that puts you at disadvantage from the others because they've been through that and know how to be a bit more patient with it?
Yeah.
And it's more difficult for you because you've only just had everything go in one direction.
Yeah.
That's what makes it challenging for you emotionally, I think.
Like, I always feel like I'm the only one that's had a bad session, or the only one that struggles, or the only one that gets totally exhausted. All they want to do is just curl up in a ball and sleep. And
sometimes you struggle to understand why you've not got faster from one week to the next.
Yeah.
That's challenging for me because I want you to enjoy it and feel progress, but it's hard because it's physically not possible to get like faster in a straight line and one session to the next. But I sometimes feel like that's what you're expecting of yourself.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I always expected one session I can run a number this easily, and then the next session, why can't I run that and it'd be easier?
Okay, here's for context. In 12 months, you took the same amount of time off your marathon PB that it's taken me 10 years to take off mine. So in 1 year, you took 14 minutes off. 14 minutes has taken me 10 years.
It depends, doesn't it? Because it's a fluke. I just had a good day.
Yeah.
Bar London.
And you've seen how easy it is to fluke things in London. Because you didn't do any training, did you? And so you just turned up and ran.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that's progress of a kind tonight.
On your marks.
Toes behind the line.
Yeah, I think I felt a lot better with it being the track that we train on. So it kind of felt just like a training session. Sometimes I get really anxious about, this is going to sound really strange, about wearing a crop top because I feel very exposed. When you do run and race, everyone does it, but I still feel like I'm the odd one out. So I decided after Tipton, because I wore a crop top, I'll try wearing my vest. I'll put racing flats on instead of spikes. I'll go and just do a normal warm-up where we usually do. I'll not think of anyone else. I'll just literally rock up and enjoy myself, and when everyone arrived it was really relaxed, and I felt, you know what, I'm not going to let this anxiety get the better of me this time, because I spent so many hours upset after last time. It just really wasn't worth it. So when we got there, I did some strides and I felt like, yeah, I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to just not let it beat me this time. And I felt a lot more in control. I wasn't overly happy with the time, but like you say, PBs aren't always, it was a PB, but PBs aren't always about the time. It was more for me to be able to get over the fact that I've just done a track race and I've not cried for 4 hours. So that was a great benefit in itself, and to not feel like people were staring at me, to not feel like so out of my control. I just thought, you know what, no, last time it was awful, it can't actually be worse. So, and it wasn't amazing, but I still had a little wobble. But then we went and did a session afterwards and I felt like I was flying again.
She's got, you know, a big aerobic capacity and the strength and conditioning required to be able to harness that and not break down as a result. Some people are, you know, their horsepower is capable of kind of, you know, causing an injury almost, because they're, you know, they haven't got that robustness that you need to be able to put up with putting, you know, the kind of training that your lungs are capable of doing. So I think good balance there. Psychologically, very good at suffering. I think, you know, there's a sort of cliche that, you know, longer distances are about suffering, the kind of middle distance and perhaps the shorter distances are about hurting. And that was one of the things that we had to try and change, that there's a natural conservative tendency if you're a marathon runner, because you know the potential consequences of, you know, going into the red, and she had a very stark reminder of what those were. So I think there's a natural reluctance to really like blow yourself up in a session, which sometimes can be necessary in when you're trying to get, you know, trying to develop that speed stuff. Not that you don't want to pace sessions well, but I think sometimes you can only find where the edge is by going slightly over it occasionally. So I suppose that was, yeah, I would say definitely robust physically and mentally, kind of really strong, you know, and beneath everything else, a real determination, I guess. And so that was probably the thing that, in the moments when I had the most doubts about how, you know, she was struggling with things or whatever, I was always able to reassure myself that actually she'll overcome whatever this is at some point. You just have to hang in there. I think it's been, rather than individual moments, I think it's kind of a gradual process, albeit over only a few weeks, that what she said away from here in the last couple of days is how fit she feels, how strong she feels, how ready she feels, how much more relaxed about everything she is. And, you know, that's been achieved in a short time, but that has felt like a very long time as well. And so I'm really, you know, she's overcome a lot of demons in that period, and that'll be hugely valuable. And probably the biggest one for me would be that she's now willing to recognise that she doesn't have to come at every bit of positivity with a balancing bit of negativity. So if we say that session went well, or you ran well there, or that was a good time, or whatever it was, she would used to respond with, yeah, but such and such is running much quicker, or yeah, but that's slow compared to what I should be doing, or, you know, immediately some way to kind of, I don't know, undermine anything positive. But she's really stopped doing that, and I think that's vital, because it's important that she's confident, certainly not overconfident. You don't want to get, you know, any hint of that in distance running, because it'll bring you back to earth pretty quickly. But I think that having that faith in the work that you've done and the fitness that you've earned is really important when you commit during a race, because you need to have that confidence that you're going to be able to withstand what's coming.
All that mattered was I'm going to go out there and run my best, run with Dan and do what I enjoy. And there was so many demons I had from Tipton that I just literally wanted to run a good time and overcome all of that. Because I'd overcome it at the Birmingham track, I wanted to kind of replay that into the Tipton 5000 at the track and not feel anxious and nervous. And I genuinely didn't feel any sort of nerves before the 5000, and I don't actually know why. I felt nervous when I was stood there watching my friend Molly run, because I knew that she'd always give it her all. She's a fantastic runner, and like I thought, if she can do it, I can do it. And we push each other during sessions, and we always say like, oh, I always think of you when I'm pushing really hard because I know you'd push really hard. And I thought to myself, you know what, she is giving it her all today. And I thought, I don't want to let her down, because if I don't do it, or if I don't give it my best, because I don't want to say to her, oh, I know you gave it your all, but I didn't. And as a team, I think it's so important to bounce off each other in a way that I always think, oh, Molly would never give up. She'd never give up. And she says the same to me. And it's really, really nice, because during a hard session, I think of people that would say to me, oh, Hayley would never give up at this point. But the amount of times I think, you know what, I actually would, but I don't. And it's kind of, no, just push a little bit more, one more lap, one more rep, one more minute, anything that just gets me through. And I absolutely loved the 5,000 metres. I don't even know what it was. I felt so in control. I felt that I got stronger as the run went on. I felt more like I could do it. And it was a massive confidence boost to run a 16:05 and feel that there was so much more in the tank. And it was really quite good. 2 days after doing the 3,000 and 1,500 on the Sunday. But I set my expectations so high. I wanted to break 16. But I know that I could have on a good day. But I just really enjoyed it. It really hit home that, no, I actually can be quite a good athlete. Like, I think I thought to myself for the first time that I actually feel strong, I feel brave, I feel, you know what, no, I deserve to be here. And it was a matter of, I think I thought to myself, just don't come last. And I said we came middle of the pack, and I think there was about 20 runners. And I just thought, you know what, we're all athletes, we're all equal. I really wanted to get my teeth into a good race. And it just so happened that, say, the men there on the day were the athletes that I was there to help me put down a good time. And if there were women there in that race, it would have been amazing, because, say, it would have been an extra competitor or something. But it was just, I don't know, I just felt so happy to have got to where I am and be in the fastest race with a load of men, and it just felt really cool. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it.
Great work, Hayley. Big last mile, you've got this.
I think because I just trusted Dan and I wanted to trust my fitness, I wanted to put down a good time and to enable qualification for the British Champs this summer, which is, I think, 16:10. So I did that. But there was so much more that I thought to myself, you know what, I might just be having a really good day. It might not feel slow, but it does feel it. It might not be slow, sorry, but it does feel it. And I just felt so comfortable and so relaxed. My breathing felt relaxed. I felt my arms were moving right, and it was just, I wanted to be there for the first time at a track race. I actually wanted to be in the race. I wanted to put down a good time, and it really did matter. And that's the first time I've ever felt that on a track race, and I think it's, like you say, because it was a bit of a further distance. I felt a bit more comfortable.
What was tonight's session?
Not confidence boosting.
Well,
It hurt a lot.
only because you're failing to interpret it correctly. We did 8 800s with a 200 jog in between. I didn't really time them because I'm not that bothered about that. It was just about trying to hit race effort for next week, really.
And I say, like, we did the strides to warm up, and we both pretty much said that whatever the pace today didn't really matter, because it was just, like you say, maintaining that effort. And I think we did that, especially after the first one, when I thought, yeah, okay, let's call it at that. And then it was literally just do one more, and then it got to odd numbers, and then it was, well, we can't stop on an odd number. And then we got to 6, so I thought, oh well, we'll start number 7, and then you never. I always finish, and then I couldn't finish on 7, so we had to do 8, and that was the rules. Own rules.
I think there's it's probably the same in whatever you do in life. You get to the end of something, and the last, you sort of talk yourself into, we're nearly there, the end of the training block. And the training block in some ways is harder than the race. So I think mentally, the last session of any training block is really difficult anyway, because you're so ready to get your rest and get your taper in. Trying to stay focused and not react to feeling tired, which you're bound to at the end of the block, is difficult.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like I learned a bit from London Marathon in that sense, because the last couple of sessions for London you were quite down about, but actually it was just because it was the end of a very long training block and you were feeling tired, which is inevitable. But yeah, I feel pretty good about where we are.
Yeah.
Like,
We survived again.
Talking now after the last 4 weeks, I feel like we're in a completely different place from where from
Yeah.
that point. And
Lots changed.
Couldn't have done any more, so we just need to wrap you up in cotton wool now and get you to the race ready to go.
Get you to the church on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might ask this one again next week, but how do you feel about track now versus 6 weeks ago?
I love it. I know, I really do. And I feel like thinking now using it as more of a tool to get faster. And even though it's because it's the same principle like going to the gym, it all builds up to getting faster on the roads. And I think deep down I know I'm not a track runner, but that's okay because I don't need to be. I just need to. Well, I don't need to do anything. I enjoy running, and whatever gets me faster and whatever keeps me happy, then that's just the way it is.
How do you feel about races on the track now? Because early in the season you found them very intimidating.
I kind of wish I was doing a 5,000 track race this weekend, and I don't actually know why, but I feel like there's more in 5,000 because I felt more within myself at a 5,000 than a 3K. I think it was because mentally I just thought 3K is going to be ridiculously fast, but in fact I ran the 5,000 faster than the pace of the 3K, so I know it's all in my head, but that just takes practice and takes time, and I'm willing to try. So.
And how do you feel about racing 10,000?
Slightly sick. But I've never done it before, so I can't really expect it to feel like one thing or another. It is what it is.
My first ever park run was at Walsall, and I found my training diary actually the other day, and Dan and I were looking through it. And I'd just written, oh my gosh, I came first lady at parkrun and 4th overall. I ran 17:40. I was so over the moon. And it was just, I remember my coach at the time, I wrote in my book, I hope he lets me do more park runs because I really enjoyed the atmosphere. And after my first park run, my friend Debbie came over to me and she said, "Oh my gosh, like you've just ran that time." And I was like, "Oh, have I? I just wanted to break 18 minutes." And she went, "You do know that's really fast?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then she's like, "You should join Birchfield Harriers." And I was like, I'm not affiliated anywhere at the minute. I said, "But I'll think about it." And then I just went home, didn't think anything of it, and then I just fell in love with parkrun from that day, really. So, say the world record, I'd love to do it, but I know that regardless of where I run, it is a matter of time because I am getting faster, and as much as not in a big-headed way at all, it's just you train more, you just get faster. Apparently, that's what Dan tells me anyway. So it makes me Biden catch the rod. But I just love parkrun, the whole atmosphere, and the fact that no matter how fast or slow, everyone's valued the same. Everyone still shows up. Everyone still runs. We all go for cake after, coffee after. We sit there till midday and think, "Oh God, I should probably go home now." And then everyone's there, week in, week out, and it's just a fantastic atmosphere that I feel honoured to be a part of.
Get me, come on! Go on, Dad, go on, Hayley! Come on, Molly, go with her! Great work, Naomi. Come on, push hard now, come on.
Just in case we forget what time the race starts.
One of the compromises I had to make on the coaching side was to keep her really tired for that 6 weeks, because the amount of work we wanted to get in. What would have been lovely from a confidence point of view would be to have a little bit of a mini taper somewhere, run a really fast race, and use that as the thing to build the confidence from. But I felt in terms of the physiology and the physical requirements of what she's going to need for Saturday, it didn't quite fit. We had too much work to do. So she did a load of races kind of tired, and obviously there's a time at the end of a race and that other people look at, and that she's aware of other people are looking at, and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I was relying a lot. I put all my eggs in the basket of, well, as soon as her legs freshen up in the taper week, she's going to build in confidence dramatically, because she's going to be zipping and think, wow, where have these come from? I guess that's I knew they were coming, but it wasn't, she couldn't know that because she hasn't got the experience to know that that's how it works. And
Yeah.
cool. There you go. And I just want to watch it. I just want to watch her do her thing, and it's going to be great. And there's absolutely nothing to lose now, because the mental downside is being taken care of, which was a big tick. I now know that psychologically she's robust, and she understands that the race is not the thing. All the work and the fitness is the thing, and the race is a one-off thing, but we'll still have all that to take forward to the main goal anyway, which is the Olympics and all that. So it's kind of a free swing. We're going to have a strategy that means she's chasing people, and I just know how fit she is, and I wouldn't want her to be chasing me.
On your mark.
So we're off.
Going into the race, I felt really confident. I felt like the training had gone really well. Felt that whatever the pace was, I could at least withstand it for first half, and then I know I kind of get stronger throughout races generally, mentally and sometimes physically. So I kind of thought, we'll get through the first half, and whatever happens, you know you can hang on a lot longer than you think. I felt great warming up. I felt like I was striding out. I felt going confident into the race. So everything shone positivity, which is strange for me. But then the gun went and I wanted it to be over. It was just, don't know what happened. It wasn't my legs, my head, my body. It wasn't one specific thing. It was just, I wanted it to be over the second it started. And yeah.
I feel hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But I feel like the one thing you can never recreate is that environment and that scenario. You know, the only way to really practice it is to put yourself in it, and it's a very unforgiving environment, isn't it? And we tried to simulate it in some ways, but really what you need to develop is the ability to tune it out, and to some degree that requires being immersed in it a few more times. And so that was always the danger, I guess, but obviously it's the sort of thing that you don't. I considered it before, but there's not a lot you can do, so you tried not to focus on that. But
don't understand, like, I just don't belong there.
Well, you don't have to ever do anything that makes you feel sad if you don't want to. I don't really care about the racing, I just want you to be happy.
No, I felt so confident going into it, and then there was just so many laps.
There's a lot of laps, 25.
But everyone else can do it and I can't.
I mean, like, look, you choked, you froze, and that can happen, right? And, and it was a massive lesson. It was horrible, really one of the worst evenings I can remember, but it's done now, and like it definitely taught us a massive lesson. So
it just, I felt nothing but fear, and running generally doesn't make me feel like that. Sometimes do, but not all the time.
So how did you feel in the week after Highgate? About you running, about where you'd got with your prep? Just be completely honest. Where were you at? What were you thinking?
What's the point? I thought, why do I do all this to myself when I can't perform when it matters? And what really does matter to me is running well, running strong, and enjoying my running. And that night, it was just, only could be described as hell for me. And it should have been an amazing event, and like everyone was so positive, and what an amazing atmosphere. And but all I kept thinking was, I feel like I'm in a goldfish bowl, and I feel, even though people aren't watching you in particular, I just felt completely just alone, even though there was a massive, massive crowd of people, and I just felt petrified, and it was just so unknown that it was, well, it's like with anything in life, the first time you ever do something, it's fear of the unknown, and the second the gun went, and I almost felt my eyes widen and my throat close, and it was just panic.
54, 55, 56, 57. Good work.
Great start. Great start.
We've spent a lot of time working with Andy Lane to try and convince me that running isn't a threat. Running is just running. You do it because you love running, and I do really love running. And we've decided for every race we'll get together and put down what we kind of want to get out of the race, what it means, whether what sort of mental cues I can use, psychological tips to try and train in, which seemed to work today, so that was handy. Or that might have been the strawberry splits I ate before the session. But yeah, like, running means so much to me that I don't ever want to let it make me feel like that, because yeah, it was horrible. And I know I have retired many times, but that was genuinely, I don't see the point. I cried myself to sleep on the bathroom floor because I just didn't know what to do, and yeah, it was bad. But I'm a bit of a drunk. I'm either up here or down here.
That's a really great session. It's not easy, is it? But you've got to concentrate. As long as you concentrate, you're not losing.
I think the race was at 3 o'clock, and about 1 o'clock I just said to Dan, I can't do it. And he's like, what can't you do? And I was like, I don't know. And he said, what's it? And I was like, I don't know, I just can't do it. And he went, but what is it about it that you don't love? You love running, fast, you like racing, you're on your home turf. And it's like, I don't know, it was petrifying. And we went into the high performance centre where all the athletes were, and I just remember walking in thinking, oh my god, all this is so normal for them, and it just feels so out of my depth. And Dan went, you know what, just enjoy it. And I just was like, yeah, no, this is horrible, and it felt like such a threat. But then about 10 to 3, it was really strange. All of a sudden this wave came across me, and I just thought, this is really cool. The fact that I'm racing the best 5,000 metre runners in Britain, and I'm training for a marathon, and the fact that I got invited anyway, it just felt like, you know what, enjoy it, because one, the track's going to be knocked down anyway, so I was like, it's the last race that we could have done there, and then I just stayed that excitement, and I just thought, there's nothing to lose. I've got no pressure, I'm a marathon runner, just go and enjoy it, and I did, and we set off in the race, and I said, whatever happens, I'm going to be in it. I'm going to be in the race. I'm not going to sit back and watch it. I said, because I want to get the most out of it, regardless of how it feels. So, yeah.
So what do you think was different to Highgate? Because you said to me about half an hour before I left you, it was probably about 12:30 or so, that you were so worried that you'd feel the same way as you did at Highgate, and that you just sort of freeze. So what was different this time?
I don't know. I don't know whether it was the fact that all my family were there, the fact that because Highgate went so badly, I just thought, you know what, I don't want to be that upset again. I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to let Dan down. I don't want to let my family down. And it was just, however I felt, it wasn't even going to come into it. It was just, however my body felt, I was just going to tell myself, it's lying to you. Because as soon as I stopped at Highgate, I knew something wasn't right. I don't know what it was, but I thought, whether it was in my head or whether it wasn't, even if I did feel like that, I wasn't going to let it beat me. And I think it was a process of mind over matter, and I just thought, I'm not letting something as silly as this beat me, and I just absolutely loved it. The whole buzz of the stadium, the crowds, and I just thought, you know what, lap it up, because you're only going to get this opportunity once. It's only going to be the first time you do it once, and I loved it. I think the only thing I'm going to do is can see it as a training run. I think that's all I can do. It scares me because it's a lot of laps, and I feel like once your head goes, I find it very difficult to get it back on again. But I say I'll be running with the training group, with Dan and Ince. We'll be there together to just kind of take a lap each and work together to just kind of put down a good time, but not, from what Dan said anyway, not flat out 10k. So we've got a big few weeks coming up, so I don't think it's going to be absolutely flawed at the end, but I probably will be anyway. But yeah, I'm just going to take it as stay in the pack and just do what you can, and your body definitely does lie to you. My body just tells me that it's really hard, and I just tell it's going to do it anyway, so you might as well shut up. I've certainly learned that I can run a lot faster than I thought. And by doing all this speed work, it's made marathon pace and marathon effort feel like I'm absolutely flying. So even though all the anxiety, and I think every single scenario that we could have possibly encountered from track running, we definitely have 10 times over. So I feel like whatever the marathon throws at me now, there's nothing that I haven't dealt with, because the track was the worst thing I could imagine. I just felt so exposed and just really vulnerable. Whereas things with the marathon, it finds you out. You can't go into it without being fully ready for it. And if you have one sort of, it separates people from the norm, really. And I think to run a marathon, it's certainly not normal. And then to race a marathon is crazy. And endurance is like test sessions like tonight. The endurance is where I really enjoy. Even though there's a lot of laps around the track, it's just running, and I just love. I feel like I can just go forever, and I think that's where I end up being a marathon runner and not a track runner. But we'll see.
It's under 33. Here comes Hayley. Well done, Hayley. First 10,000 metre PB on the track. Excellent running. Finish.
I really actually enjoy running on the track now, because I can kind of see it as a way of, as opposed to ticking off a mile, it's ticking off a lap. And yeah, don't get me wrong, 25 laps is a long way, but it's also only 25 times to get it right. And if I set off too quickly, then it's going to be a long 24 laps. And I want to enjoy it, but I also want to make sure that I give it absolutely everything. But I'm also so inexperienced on a track, and there's just no pressure. I know that I've learned so much this training block that is going to keep me in stead for the rest of my career, which is hopefully a long, healthy and happy one, as opposed to, I don't want to run my PBs at 26, because then what a boring 10 years it'll be.